Hello and welcome. This is Japan. We just had another Raw. Uh, honestly, it was a pretty big grab bag of. It felt like a lot of random, but like not necessarily bad random. But I know we'll jump right into it and to talk about it. This was for the 18th episode. On the 18th, not the 18th. I don't know. I'm screwing up this intro. Let's just jump into the thing. So we start off with Seth Rollins and the Vision. I do like them called Division. I don't think it's necessarily like the greatest faction name ever, but it fits him being the visionary and all that. I'm not against it. It's a lot better than what they could have came up with. So I'm on board with that. Them starting off the show, them just talking pretty much the same stuff, and then just Paul Heyman cutting the most epic Philadelphia centered promo with him being, with ECW here back in the day and all that. I thought that was pretty good. So all of it was a really solid thing. I just kind of not feeling the whole like him going with all of the people at once. This is the thing with Seth Rollins. Like he had all of these like matches he could have been, so they just threw all of them at him at once. Not always the greatest idea, so I feel like that's kind of suffering. And obviously, we knew Braun Breaker and Jey Uso were gonna have the match at the end of the night, but they ended up making an Extreme Rules match, which was nice to see that they actually changed it because we all thought it was just gonna be a DQ and all that. So at least they changed it up a little bit, but then again, nothing too crazy. Um, so I feel like I put the promo in A. It was still good. I feel like if you just put like Paul Heyman stuff, that's definitely an S. But the whole overall was probably a B. So I'm gonna cut the difference and put it in A. Next up, at Io Sky versus Raquel Rodriguez. I felt, obviously Raquel's always kind of limited in these matches. I feel like she's good. Like, I think she's a good wrestler, but I don't think she's a top tier wrestler. But she's getting a lot of bookings of being, like, in that spotlight that she's very competent when she goes out there and makes everything look good. So that's at least what you got to show for her. And obviously, Io Sky is Io Sky, just one of the best wrestlers in the business. This was a solid way to start off the matches. I'd put it in a B. It's still nothing to frown upon because this was still a really good match. It was nothing crazy. It was also not super long, but at least we got a nice ending to it all. And then obviously, the she got beaten up afterwards, and Rhea Ripley had to come down there and save her, which led to Rhea and her talking backstage. The Kabuki Warriors being upset that Rhea, did that. I like this story. It's been very slow. I don't know exactly which ways they're going with it, and I don't mind. Sometimes with these slow storylines, it has a delicious finish, and other times they just forget about it or they just cram it all of a sudden. So I'm hoping they just let it go with whatever they're going to go with. But I'm completely on board for this, and I'm happy. So I'm putting this up in S tier because I'm excited. And now with other stuff that happens in the show, there could be even more implications going on with these matches. So next up, we had Penta versus Xavier Woods. Kind of a random match. It was just based off of Penta kind of facing the New Day and New Day adjacent. He faced Grayson Waller. He's facing Xavier Woods here, and he faces Kofi Kingston next week. Not bad wins to be, or like, matches to put on. I don't think there should be anything bad about that type of stuff. You're getting on TV and getting good time. This match, I think all of what Penta put in there was a solid A. Xavier Woods, he was there. Like, the problem with him is just like, he works in very well in a tag team thing, but the heel New Day doesn't have anything like crazy with their moves. Like, they don't do anything out of the box that like is so crazy. So it just kind of felt like it was a slight 3v1, but then Penta got the upper hand and beat him anyway. So I'll put it down and see. Wasn't the worst, wasn't the best. Then we had kind of a completely random match, but it wasn't necessarily against it. It was Dragon Lee and Mr. Iguana versus the Judgment Day, kind of based off of the stuff that happened at Triple Mania. Overall, I thought this match was really good with obviously the wrestling and stuff inside of it. Some good spots. Mr. Iguana is obviously extremely over with the crowd, and everybody really enjoyed this match. In the crowd itself, it was a little short. I think they could have definitely made it a little bit longer. I know they kind of crammed in a lot more matches and a lot more stuff in this episode, so I think that's kind of probably where some of the time came. But at least they didn't have the Judgment Day lose here, because I had a big feeling that they were going to lose, and then that would have killed their momentum as tag team champions to just lose to a random tag team. And then a lot of stuff happened afterwards, and Vikingo came down to make a save, and Dom stepped in and ended up eventually taking Vikingo down and holding the belts up here with the double champion. So that was kind of cool. I'd put overall B. Vikingo and Dom have a rematch at Worlds Collide, so I'm kind of excited for that. I do think that there's a good chance that Dom will win that one just because of how over he is over there and how it doesn't seem like a lot of people are behind Vikingo in his own vein. Then we had kind of in the back, Sheamus and Rusev going again. They ended up putting this as a Donnybrook match in Paris. This is a big L. I don't know why this is a PLE worthy match. It isn't. There are so many people desperate to get just even screen time for their titles, and we're not even going to give. We're not giving them this. We're just giving this feud that nobody has been behind. This is a feud that can easily just be contained on Raw, and it's fine. Nobody would be upset that we missed out on a ending to this. Like, what's the ending? It's pointless. This is a terrible decision because we barely have any matches there, and this is the match that they decide to take, and I just don't understand it. So I'm putting it down in D. I'd put it lower if I could. I really just think this is a dumb idea. This is a big spot to be taken. Then we had Becky Lynch versus Natalia. Honestly, it was just kind of like they played the fake injury angle and like that the brutality and stuff, but I feel like they should have not done the injury and just let her be brutal. I don't really understand when they do that type of stuff. I know they're trying to like protect Natalia and being like, oh, she was hurt, so she couldn't have won. Like nobody really thought she was going to have that opportunity to win anyways, so it didn't really change anybody's thoughts. They just needed to make it more believable of just being brutal Becky Lynch. I think they didn't really do that. Overall, the match was nothing special. It was slightly better than the Maxine one last week, but again, it wasn't too crazy. At least, we get to see the title defended, so I'm fine with that part. I'm not necessarily upset. And then we had Nikki Bella make the save at the end, which I'm hoping will lead to a match at Clash of Paris. But if that match gets cut and thrown onto a random Raw compared to the Sheamus match, I'll even be more pissed off. Then we had kind of sad slash good news, I guess. Naomi had to relinquish her title because she is pregnant. Now, I will say in a million things, it's way better of a thing than having to relinquish because of like injury or other outside stuff. At least it's something that probably wasn't necessarily planned, but it happened, and there's still a joyous occasion for all of that. But I don't know what they're going to do with this title. That's like pretty much a whole video in itself type of thing. But I think overall, like for what could happen and the potential of it, it's really good. So I'll put it up in S tier. But I am sorry, or not like, I'm sorry, sad to see what we didn't get to see with Naomi on what was going to happen because I feel like there was a lot. So next up, we had Jey Uso versus uh, Braun Breaker. It was the Extreme Rules match. We kind of knew it was going to play out this type of way where they were going to go extreme and then everybody was going to get evolved. And then Roman Reigns came down. They ruined it by advertising that Roman was going to be on the show because he had not shown up at that point. So it was automatic that he was going to show up here. They'd been going through the whole night talking about like LA Knight and didn't want to help. And CM Punk said he was going to help, but Jay didn't want him down there. And they just kind of set it up to be a really cookie cutter thing. The match itself, for being a Extreme Rules match, was really not anything super crazy. I think the best part of it was the Roman Reigns spear out of nowhere. Everything else was decent, but not anything that I would, think that is main event worthy. So I'm put it in B. Again, I don't know why you have certain stuff like this when this kind of puts you in a no-win situation because Braun Breaker really couldn't afford a loss there, and Jey Uso can't afford a loss, but why even put them in that position to take an L? And especially with putting it with the Extreme Rules fan, we knew we were going to get a victor, so it made it even more rough. So even it being predictable by not being predictable because they were like, oh, everybody thinks it's going to be a DC, so we're going to put it or a DQ. We're going to put it as a Extreme Rules, and that will show them. But then still have a predictable ending to who shows up, what happens, and all that. I think overall, I'll put the show in a solid B. I don't think it was anything too crazy. I thought the matches had a good thing. It was fairly entertaining altogether. Overall, as a show, I enjoyed it. It's still been better than what SmackDown's been putting down. I feel like it's somewhat on par with NXT, and so I don't think there's necessarily anything bad with that to a certain extent. but hopefully we're starting to go now that we have these European shows coming up in the earlier time. I think it makes it a little bit rougher because obviously you got to watch it right away because the spoilers come out and all that, and they always seem to like kind of not do as crazy of a show when they know that people are going to spoil it. And we still got a couple weeks till Clash of Paris, so um, we're kind of getting to a spot where we need to figure it out. I'd say a couple weeks, but it's what, next weekend or the weekend after? God, I don't even actually know now at this point. I want to say it's next week in general, like next weekend. So yeah. But if you guys like these type of videos, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.